Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Showbiz India. I'm Reshma Dordi, your host today. Don't laugh, Resh.
Well, I had to.
Well, the thing is that every time I'm in Los Angeles, Reshma does an interview with me for Showbiz India, and I thought that I've done enough interviews this time to do Reshma's job and play the host for today's show, along with Reshma, of course, because I couldn't manage to get her out of frame. So it's going to be me and her, and we were reminiscing about Showbiz India because I've been with the show right from the inception. And we have a few memories with us that we would like to share during the course of the show. Is that right?
Absolutely. So a very special director's cut Showbiz India coming your way.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Showbiz India. I'm your host, Reshma Dordi. Well, actually, I'm not Reshma Dordi. I'm Vikram Bhatt, visiting Los Angeles. And every time that I'm here, Reshma wants me to do an interview for Showbiz India. So I decided that I should host the show with Reshma, since it's the 15th anniversary of the show, and I've been with the show right from the inception. Of course, it took a while to convince Reshma to do this. But now that I'm here, we wish to reminisce the journey of Showbiz India with you, share some beautiful memories that we have, and make this truly an anniversary issue.
Absolutely, and thank you for being here. A very special Showbiz India director's cut coming up.
Welcome back, everyone. The first thing that I did for Showbiz India, my first contribution, was to make a beginning montage, the start montage for Showbiz India.
And this is before we launched. So I went to India and I did a series of interviews, and then I was supposed to obviously edit an opening montage. And I was there and I was very sleepy because I'd been working very hard.
That's true. We had this, these were the times when new digital editing machines had just come around in India, and we had the new Avid. So we thought, okay, let's make a montage. And we got all these clippings from all her interviews and sat in a dungeon-like, basement-like editing room from morning and made this montage. I think it turned out really nice.
Absolutely, and he's being very kind. He actually let me have a break because I was so tired, and he sat with the editor, Amit Saxena, and finished the montage. Because you had worked with Amit before, right?
Amit Saxena is the one who then directed Jism, if you remember.
Yes, and that did really, really well.
That did really well.
And which film did you work with him?
Amit and I, of course, when he did the montage, he was just editing. Actually, I was so happy and impressed with his work on that montage that I decided to give him a film to edit, and the film was Kasoor,
which I enjoyed very much, directed by Mr. Vikram Bhatt himself. Now, during that time, I did a series of interviews, and we have a couple of fun anecdotes to share with you. Do you want to start?
It was the time that I was shooting for a film called Ghulam, and Amir was the hero of the film. So Reshma asked me if there was an interview with Amir that was possible. And I went to Amir and I said, Amir, this is my friend Reshma, and she's starting a show of her own, and she would like to do an interview with you. And he was like, I'm shooting for Mela, and I start shooting at 9 in the morning, so I start doing makeup at 8 in the morning, so can we do it at 7 in the morning? I was like, 7 in the morning? Who does an interview, Amir? He's saying 7 in the morning and at Film City, which is like an hour away from the city.
And he also said, make sure it's because 7 in the morning, the morning top light would be perfect.
Yeah, the light would be perfect, he said, for an interview. That's him being a perfectionist. So Reshma had to wake up at 5 in the morning to get ready with hair, makeup, and I had to go, having no part in this interview whatsoever. But I had to go with Reshma to Film City.
Because in front of Amir, I said, Vikram, you're going to come to the shoot too, right?
And Amir was like, yeah, if you don't come, I'm not doing the interview. So I was like, okay, let's go then. And I remember we reached Film City at 7 sharp, And Amir was already there. And he was already doing his makeup. And he was already wearing his beard for Mela. And I think we had a fun interview. I think it was on the set of Mela.
That's right. It was on the sets of Mela. And of course, he was a perfectionist always. And he was ready on time, ready to go for the interview. And so that was history beginning.
Like they say, happy days.
And in Gulam, I know a surprise package. You've tried your hand at singing for the very first
Yeah.
time. What was that experience like?
It was tough. Yeah, I sang for the first time actually, and I wasn't really keen on singing the song, but when the song was made and the director Vicky and Mukeshji, they both of them felt that I should sing the song, and because of the kind of way it comes in the film, they wanted me to sing it in my own voice, and so I tried it. I was a little skeptical. I wasn't sure how I would sing and whether I would be able to sing it right. But they seem to be happy with it.
We are talking about our memories, about going down the whole journey of Showbiz India over all these years. And a particular incident comes to mind, Reshma. You remember how we tried to get so many interviews in 3-4 days, because we used to have only 3-4 days in India.
Exactly.
And
I tried to cram in as many interviews as I could. And of course, he always helped me arrange for the crew. And then we were doing back-to-back interviews. And one of the interviews I asked you, I think I came to your office.
yeah.
And I said, I have room for one more interview left today.
So yeah, I remember this really well. We were sitting in the office and I was like, who can I get? Who can I get? And I was like, why don't you interview this new girl that I'm launching in Gulam? Her name is Rani Mukherjee. And she was like, okay, will people back in the States know her? I was like, I don't know, but you can introduce them to her. She's a sweet girl, very talented. So she was like, okay. So I called up Rani and I said, Rani, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm at home, I'm not doing much. And I was like, come, we need to do an interview. She says, right now, I mean, I don't have any hair, no makeup, nothing. I said, come on, you don't need any hair and makeup. And she's such a sport, must give it to her. Just got into her sweats and just came right down to the office to do this interview. I think what makes a show like Showbiz India is so many people coming together and wishing a show well. I think that's really important.
And I'm very fortunate to that. And for you and for many of my other friends for making this happen. And yes, Rani came down, and I remember we shot the show right by your office downstairs, walking as two friends, while Vikram was overseeing the shoot once again. And look at her now. As you all know, Rani Mukherjee, one of the biggest actresses of the Indian film industry.
So we're going to talk about the Vancouver thing now.
Huh.
With them.
Oh, the one time, that was a
Yeah,
funny story.
the fun
in front
story.
of Amitabh, yeah. So go ahead.
So no, you say.
No, but you're the host.
But you're co-hosting, you can say.
I didn't, but you said you were going to be the...
Guys, we're rolling. We're rolling.
Okay, rolling.
So should I go?
Go.
Welcome back, everyone, to Showbiz India and a very special director's cut. So we have a very special story to tell you. Actually, Vikram came to Vancouver many years ago. I think it was like 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was 2003. Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah, exactly, 10 years ago. So he came and was shooting for Etbar with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, Bipasha Basu, and John Abraham. And he gives me a call and says, hey, Resh, why don't you come to my shoot in Vancouver? I'll give you exclusive interviews with all of them. So, of course, it was like, wow, this is great. So I flew to Vancouver, got to spend some time with my friend Vikram here. And, of course, I got interviews. And one day, we were sitting in the green room. And Mr. Bachchan was sitting there in the background. And him and I actually forgot that Mr. Bachchan was sitting right there.
In the same room.
In the same room. And we started arguing about daylight standard time versus daylight saving time. And we kept arguing.
You see, the thing is that I come from a country called India where there's only one time. Summertime, wintertime, monsoon time, fall time, spring time, it's all one time. But here you have, two different times. So I was like, daylight saving time must be the winter time where you actually want to save on daylight. And she said, no, it's summertime because that is the time that you can actually add an hour. Right? So we kept on arguing that no, summer, no winter. Of course, there was no Google at that time available on the phone, otherwise it'd be easy.
We're that old.
Yeah.
There's no Google
So
at
we
that
kept
time.
kept on arguing about this, and suddenly we hear this really gruff voice of Mr. Amitabh Bachchan from the back. Arey bhaiya, aap dono chocolate khao.
Yeah, and that's when we realized he was in the room.
He was totally blown with this argument. But that turned out to be a great outdoor.
Absolutely, and that was a nice film. And
Nice
Mr.
film.
Bachchan, boy, he's Mr. Bachchan, huh?
Well, he's the legend. And now I have to share with you a story of a slightly personal nature, but Reshma very much a part of it. You see, I was shooting for this film called Aap Mujhe Achhe Lagne Lage, which had Hrithik Roshan and Amisha Patel. And we had this huge set put up in Mumbai, and we were shooting this Dandiya Ras song. And I remember Reshma came to see me on the set. And of course, the actress was Amisha Patel. Now, what happened is, Amisha was watching me speak to this lovely, gorgeous lady, and she didn't know who Reshma was. They weren't formally introduced. And there was something that I didn't notice, but Reshma did. So now the shooting packs up, and we are on our way back in my car. And Reshma tells me, is there something going on between you and Amisha Patel? And I'm trying to be very defensive and overcorrect the situation and say, no, nothing's going on. And Reshma says, I think there is, because she was giving me the kind of look as if, what am I doing talking to you? And I was like, really now? And that made me think, and that made me do things which made me land up with her. But of course, that's the different story.
So I was right. There was something going on. And of course, he did date the lovely Amisha Patel for a few years after that. And we're all still friends. Right?
That's the truth, really.
Really.
That's not just a line. We are all really good friends.
And I have tons of stories with Vikram. One of them being when his film Raz became a super hit. And living here, I didn't really know what a big hit had it become, because it's different. So Vikram called me and said, Resh, tell me which is the biggest diamond you want. I will get you the diamond.
No. This is not a true story.
It's true, because he still has to get me that diamond.
You see, she is saying this story so that it gets aired, and I'm proved to be this diamond-giving liar. But I made no such promise.
Yes, you did.
But, as they say, a diamond is a girl's best friend.
Yes.
So I would buy Reshma a diamond anytime.
Wow. And now I have a lot of witnesses. So, yes, Raz became a super hit, and my friend became a super director in the eyes of millions of people worldwide.
That's true. The story that I'm about to tell you now is not particularly a happy one. I think Reshma and I have been friends now for around 17 to 18 years. But when this happened, I think around 3 years back, I remember I was shooting for my first 3D film. It was a film called Haunted. It was India's first stereographic 3D film. And Reshma was in India before I left. And
I
we
met
had,
you one day, right?
Yes, we had dinner together.
Yeah.
And because it was such a difficult shoot, I only could just have some starters with her, and I had to leave in a hurry. And so I left, and I was going to be shooting for 2 months in Ooty. And Reshma left from Bombay, and she came back to LA. And then I called her from Ooty, and I said, hey Resh, how are you doing? And the shooting's going well, and how are you feeling? And she says, I'm down with fever, and I'm down with a lot of chills, and I'm really shivering, and I don't know what's wrong. And I said, Resh, it's looking like malaria to me. You've been in Bombay, and it's an endemic place, and I'm really scared. You should get a test done. So she was like, okay, I'll get it done. Now the next day I call her up and no one answers the phone. I'm a little worried, but I think she must be sleeping. And you know, you have to imagine there's a huge time difference between Bombay and Los Angeles. The next day I call her again and her mother answers the phone. And she says, you should pray for Reshma. And I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And she says, she's seriously ill. And apparently the malaria had got out of control. And she was in the ICCU.
The CCU,
The
which
CCU.
is one over ICU.
Yeah. She was, that's a critical care, I think.
Right.
She was, as they say, you know, she met death and came back. Truly a test of how I felt as a friend, so many thousands of kilometers away, shooting a film, not being able to take a plane and come to her, being so far and worried. And then, by God's grace, she fought it, came out of it, and here she is again. So that legacy of Showbiz India continues.
And a few years ago, I had actually invited Vikram. I invited him a few times for the pageant to come in as judge, but he's always shooting. He's a workaholic. Most people know that about him, but I'm just confirming that. So he made sure that he made time in his schedule to come and be one of the judges for the pageant. And for that pageant, I think our special chief guest was Kangana Ranaut.
Kangana, yeah, she was shooting it for Kites, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she was here for Kites, exactly.
The thing is, the judges have to all ask a question to the contestants. And I was wondering what I should ask. So this poor contestant picks this chit and it says, the judge is Vikram Bhatt, and so she looks at me. And the question I ask her, which I still regret why I asked her, because it was such a tough one.
Really, very tough.
I said, if you were a judge, and if you were to pick a winner, which is not you, who would you pick? I think it was a very unfair question. And everybody in the audience went, oh, not fair. And I felt so bad. But she gave a good answer. She
picked Sharanya,
who actually then won
the pageant. And she was the first runner-up.
But to my credit, I met her at the after party. And I said, I'm really sorry about that question. And she was like, no, it's okay. I don't think it was okay. But, and I said, you know, when you come to India, please meet me. And I'll make sure that I can do something for you. And she did come and see me. Mm-hmm. So I hope all's well that ends well.
Well, actually, I have a story for you to tell, just to share. I'm very proud that she actually did quite well and is continuing to do well in the industry. And she just was the lead in with Irfan Khan in the movie
D-Day.
Yeah.
So that's great.
So we have lots of good memories, including Kangana, who was like a breath of fresh air during that pageant.
Yeah, I remember that. It's going to be my film Hate Story 2 that will release sometime in Jan. Then I have another film coming, Park Johnny, that comes in March. Then I have a film called, but this is not just about me, right?
I was wondering, okay. But let's talk about your film though, because I do want to talk a little bit about your film, Creature. Guys, I've seen The Creature. He's creepy in a good way.
It's India's first creature film. It's going to be 3D. It's going to be IMAX if I still have the money by the time I reach that stage. But it's very ambitious. And it's time to say goodbye from me. It's been fun hosting the show along with Reshma. And I wish that Showbiz India has many more years, many more anniversaries. And I wish I'm around to come again after, say, another 15 years and do another show with Reshma. And hopefully you guys will be interested in seeing us then.
Well, thank you, Vikram, for being a part of the show always since the inception and being such a great friend through the years. And it was his creative idea to be a co-host. And boy, I think I may lose my job.
No chance of that, but have a great weekend, guys.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for watching. And remember, stay connected with us throughout the week on Facebook and Twitter as well. Until then, keep smiling.
Ta-ta.